Thanks for joining us on Crime Watch. I'm Ivy Kano. Relief has come the way of residents of Ogere Remole community in Ogun. Arrest of Samuel Dosumu, also known as Patan, who later died from gunshot wounds for months while his reign of terror lasted. Dosumu proved himself capable of not only being the #1 public enemy, his passion for activities of the underworld covered virtually every ramification of crime. Now, by the time the police traced him to his forest hideout, scores of death were directly linked to the man who showed off his craving for blood even on social media.
Call him a monster, a beast, and a killer, and you may not be out of place. Samuel Dosumu, a young man known as Patan in Ogere Remo community, where his parents lived for many years, later became a terror and killed 7 persons in circumstances that beat the imagination. It caused panic in the land, and many of the residents fled the community. The police launched a major search and declared him wanted. Despite that, the killer struck again and killed a nursing mother and her neighbor on different days. Victims' families say they are still mourning.
My daughter called me that, Daddy, Spartan have caught mommy. On my mind that maybe Spartan caught him hand or leg. So after I come to house and I see my wife has already died.
Welcome back. We've got Mr. Joe Odumake, who is the spokesperson of Afenifere, joining us. I beg your pardon, Yinka Odumake, spokesperson of Afenifere. Pardon me there. Good morning, and good to see you again after a while.
Nice to see you guys.
But you know, that particular meeting,
yes,
yes, there were so many people who thought, wait a minute, should this have said, why did they take this perspective? But there are those who actually left out the part where they said, look, they set up 2 committees. Yeah. To actually liaise with the youths, engage with them, and see where perhaps they've got to iron things out. So was that part lost in some of the things they said, or is it that the first point they made was so strong that made the other ones almost seem irrelevant?
Even the other one is not only irrelevant, but it's also provoking.
Oh.
How can you go and sit down as a sectional group and say you are setting up committees and you are saying that nomination from Federal Executive Council? Are we running government of the North or government of Nigeria? And the rest of us, are we serfs in this country? If you have respect for us, if you are treating us as fellow Nigerians, you know it's very easy to take out all the undue advantages, sit on the necks of others, and now we going to say Nigeria is indivisible, indissoluble, in the rest. But the moment things are not going your way, you say, oh, Araba, let's divide it. Make your kind of provocative statement. We are not born yesterday night. And I think also is for the president particularly. How you say you are a president of United Nigeria? You allow your chief of staff, IG, all the top northerners in your government to go and sit on the morning in a sectional meeting. Let me tell you this. I remember this thing happened in 1999. We invited former President Obasanjo to a meeting at Afenifere in Surulere, in the house of late Obasanjo. Obasanjo came to that meeting. But when they arrived, the first 3 people that entered were Fulani. And they said, what is this man trying to do? But in a way, perhaps was trying to show his come with me. The people I'm talking to are my own people. They are not going to say it's not that I'm coming here to plot against Nigeria. That's why I came that way. But for a president to sit in Abuja there and you allow all your top officials to go and see in a sectional meeting on the Monday morning, and you come on television and be telling us that the unity of Nigeria was won at great cost. It's conquest we are talking about. We are behaving as if we have conquered the rest of us. and you are now celebrating that conquest as unity, that's indivisible, indissoluble, and the rest of them.
Are you suggesting, pardon me, that they should have turned down that invite for the meeting?
No, they don't see the rest of us. It's only when they need people around the rest of the country to carry brooms with them. That's when they think they need others. But once they think get power, it is our power they are dealing with. You can see that all that happened in NSAS, all they are concerned about is regime change. What does that mean? They want to take our power. And that's the fundamental issue in this country, why we have insisted.
Right. Pardon me, I need to get something clear, because you seem to disagree with the mode that meeting was conducted, maybe the participation and even the resolutions from that meeting. So looking back now, let's start from the beginning again. How do you, advise that meeting should have been conducted? Are you saying that it shouldn't have been called by leaders from the north? Are you saying that those invited should not have been invited? Are you saying the resolutions, which by the way involved setting up committees for the youths and traditional rulers to have representatives from geopolitical zones across the country, are you saying that all that should have never happened in the first place?
Clearly, if you have leadership that understand what this is demands, what we need most at this time is a national consultation that involves all segments of the country. What will not happen now? If those of us in the south and middle belt, you also decide to call our own meeting, call our governors, invite our representatives who are in federal government to our own meeting, what are you having? Then it means that we are returning to the protectorates, and is. For those who are shouting unity most, we have said it for 5 years, that this government is behaving as if they are now a conquest agenda.
Okay, but if we're going to have a national meeting,
yes,
as you suggested,
yes,
but I thought that would there be anything wrong in different regions and zones aggregating the opinion of their people, going to the meeting with them? For instance, is there anything wrong in saying, okay, well, if they've had meeting, southern leaders have a meeting as well, so you can aggregate points as well, then you can come to a national meeting? If that happened, would there have been anything wrong with it?
No, in fact, if we are going to go to do such a thing, where we are now, it should be a consultation among the leaders. Okay, we are in blocks. Let us hold our different meetings. Then we agree to come together and rub minds on national issues. Look, there are fundamental issues in this thing that they are not even looking at, that we have to look at together nationally. The old NSAS things, like we said, is a reflection of so many things. But you cannot be celebrating, that the youth are not participating, so let's keep the country divided as it is. If northern youth are not participating in NSAS protests, they are not mostly the victims of SARS. What SARS does is mostly profiling. You are wearing earring. This is how you are cutting your hair. You are a Yahoo boy. That's it. All those profiles are for youth from a particular section of the country. And so, in that context, is the lack of federalism. If you have federalism, we will not be running a single police where there will not be cultural imperatives to understand the nuances of young people. Or to see any young person riding a good car, it's assumed to be a fraudster. Whereas our young people these days, I interact with them, they are so enterprising. They are doing all kind of things. They are making money. There may be those who are some people are going to a crime with them, but a lot of them are so enterprising. Where the things their parents could not do years back, they are doing it. They are making money, but to provide them as criminals, and because you don't see them in how you want to profile your own young people, it's wrong. Perhaps. Now to have gone to what happened, to kill them like fowls. We saw the footages of even some of you television stations that had the audacity to use the footages. They are put up under fines, but nobody has declared that they kill people. Well, and we know when Erufai came as governor in Kaduna in 2015, he said we went to look for Fulanis who lost their cows in Kaduna in 2011 and are coming back to kill people. So if you care so much about your cows that way. You want to kill our human beings, children we have trained, and we should just forget about them. Not, you know that there's not a word about all those who are killed or who died at that meeting. Not even a word of condolence. What kind of country are we?
Well, Mr. Odumake, perhaps the issue that you have raised or that you're raising about the leadership, of the various regions would begin with, consensus among the various regions. Yes. There are 3 regions in the north, and there are 3 regions in the south: north central, northeast, and northwest. All agreed and came under an umbrella, Northern Governors Forum. And then there is southwest, there is south-south, and there is southeast.
And middle belt from the north. Who are from north?
Even the middle belts, most of them always say that they are the north central and all of that. But the question here is, perhaps there is a need for that united voice in the south as well. Maybe if there is such a voice, if there is such a coming together of all governors in the south of Nigeria or southern Nigeria, and they also can agree, the way the northern governors agreed, maybe we can have a going forward on that. A good number of governors, irrespective of region, have said that to a large extent their voices in the Nigerian Governors Forum is not one. But in the northern region, they speak as one. And among the Northern Governors Forum, they speak as one. The southern governors, I'm not sure what you would make of that. So what do you think about that unity, that coming together first of all the governors in the south of Nigeria to have the same common voice the way the northern governors have?
I don't know. It's a suggestions they are made to us. We have always believed that we should not take the year back to the 1953 era, even when the motion came from the south, and let's have independence in 57, the north walked out. There were riots in Kano and the rest of them. That this 60 years after, we should be able to behave in a way that's suggestive of all the propaganda for our colleagues. They preach unity of Nigeria, indissoluble, indivisible, only when they are at an advantage. It should not be only when we are advantageous, or we think that we are having it over the rest.
Who is at advantage here?
Oh, of course.
Over who?
It's so clear that today, the government that we have does not pretend that it's another government. Look at the security sector. We have been talking about all these things all these years. We have a institution where the chief of staff, IG, NATE, only the number man. It's not cut off. Look at everything today. Finance sectors, critical sectors. You position your own people. And at the gates of where we say we have a federal character, is that federal character that we have been running?
It goes back to the question of that coming together, that unity, that numbers, because I mean it's always about the numbers here. So if that suggestion has been made to you about all governors in the south coming together, what could be wrong with it if it's going to, as you said, give an advantage to everyone?
No, we don't seek any advantage over anybody. All we are saying is that let's run a country for all, in which are all equal before the law. That's what we're asking for. We're not asking for special advantages. We're not saying that we want some special things. We want advantage. Slow others down until we are able to move. We want equal competition. Let us move together as a people, understanding our differences, but having common goals about development, about developing our youth.
So how, in your opinion, will we be able to achieve that if we do not have the numbers to vote for that kind of thing that you're talking about?
You just reminded me of the late Fatman Nahuru, who always made this argument to us that it is preposterous to say that in a country like Nigeria, we want to have one man, one vote. It's not going to work. Now what we need is Consensus. This is a multi-ethnic society. Building an inclusive society is not about whether they have more number. They go and print, and there are more number here than here. No, it's not about number. It's about building understanding, building consensus, and in nation building. Look, a senior retired military officer from the north, my very good friend, one of the people I respect more in the north, when this thing started, called me and said, look, Chief, it's very difficult, it would be very difficult for us to make a nation out of this country.
Mr. Domaki, you know what? We'll come to break. We'll come back to that particular train of thoughts when we return in a moment. Please stay with us. All right, could you please go ahead and continue your train of thought?
Yeah. So our position is very, very clear. That at this point, we must understand that to make a success, to keep Nigeria, we must restructure and do federalism. This whole idea of running Nigeria from Abuja, it's not going to work.
It's difficult for us to make anything out of the protest.
Which protest?
I mean, you were making a point as to why they were thinking it was going to be challenging for us to perhaps move forward, having raised those key issues the protesters did.
Well, you see, it's because of the... the prophet said that can two work together except they agree. It's because there's no agreement. We are looking for different things. We are saying that, okay, let's build in a country where they can serve all our citizens, that where we can work together, where we can hold hands. There are people who are just looking for a country where they can take advantage, sit on other people's necks.
Yeah, but Mr. Nomaki, yesterday and even the day before, youths up north did actually say that no, they didn't all agree with some of the issues that were raised by the northern leaders, and that they thought that they shouldn't have said or come at it that way because they are equally affected with the security challenges.
Oh, clearly, is it not enough today that all their governors, some of their governors are negotiating with bandits? Huh? They are young people in the north. Did they not loot during this crisis? It does not show you that what affects them affects others. It's the same thing they are going through. But these people want to keep us permanently divided to think that they can only thrive in division, in dividing us, in taking advantage of the rest of us once we cannot agree. Well, and that's why they're keeping north.
You know, looking at the resolutions from that meeting, I didn't quite see anything pointing to that division which you mentioned. But I also recall you've mentioned time and again true federalism. And I'm wondering, if we were practicing true federalism, would this meeting have been okay?
If we are practicing true federalism, the meeting we could not have heard.
How do you mean?
Because if we are practicing true federalism, every regions, every part of the country are able to express themselves, their positions, take decisions on their own and rest. Why would we go and be holding this kind of in your face?
But this is a region. This is a regional meeting. This is a meeting that was held by a region.
A region.
Yes.
With the chief of staff of the president in the place, there, IG of police is there. Lajilai Mohammed, who's supposed to be the information commission minister for the whole country, was there. You gather all the... like I told you now, it's like we go to come to Lagos now, or go to Bayelsa or anywhere, or to hold a meeting of all southern and middle leaders with our governors and with our monarchs. We call Senate president, deputy Senate presidents, come. Speaker, House of Reps, come. Minority leaders in the Senate, come. What message are we sending? How would these people who are shouting indivisibility, indissolubility now, how would they react to such a meeting?
You know, I recall, I think it was earlier in the year that the IGP held meetings with Southwest governors, and I think on the occasion also held meetings with Southeast governors. I don't think he quite met with them altogether. He met with them based on region. So leaning on that, yes, you have mentioned that other top government officials were there. Don't you think that just maybe other regions, because at this point we're at the risk of splitting across region lines, and this is never what we want to see. So don't you think it might be okay for other regions to say, okay, well, this is how we want to go about our own. If you have done that, well, this is what we want to do, and find a way forward?
Well, if they allow that freedom for every region to express their own, not for a problem, But what we are saying is that you cannot call such a meeting for the North.
Is there anything stopping Southwest governors, pardon me,
Yeah.
or Southeastern governors, South governors from calling such meeting?
Well, as it is today, the way they have put Nigeria today, even those who are from your regions here will be afraid to attend because of the consequences from the colonial masters in Abuja. We are saying that, look, we cannot continue this way. You cannot continue to treat us as if we are serfs, and you are the freeborns in this country. We have equal rights, equal citizens. Let us agree. Look, I can tell you this. Even in some of our regions, even in my own region, Southwest, young people are asking us that you are wasting your time asking for destruction in this country. This country cannot work. We are the ones saying, let's continue to try. But the way they are behaving, which mouth do we want to be talking to our people when we are treating the country this way?
Just
like to conquer territory of yours?
Just to be clear, what moves have you been making that you've perhaps been hitting a stone wall? Just, to put this out there. The Southeast or Southwest region in this case, which you're part of, what moves have you been making? What kind of response have you been getting such that you now say that those you term as colonial masters in Abuja would make people afraid to attend such meetings? How did you come to that conclusion?
It's not something I can be saying on television. But we know that most of those who are not directly their own, who are serving the government, they are not given equal treatment. They just treat them as chattels to be used. They can hardly take independent positions from them. So there are deep things about the way this country is structured presently, which is why we are asking for restructuring. And at the Southern and Middle Leaders Forum, we have taken a position that it will be very, very difficult for us to go for any further national elections without restructuring this country.
Mr. Is it a problem of holding these meetings, holding these positions, as opposed to the people who are representing the various regions, the various states at the center, whether in the executive or the legislature, even in the judiciary? What are their own roles? For instance, on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning, we see Southwest governors, calling for a probe into military, the involvement of the military at the Lekki toll gate, among other things. They're also calling for a restoration of confidence in the police, morale boosting for their welfare and all of that. So if all they do is, what exactly can be done? Not necessarily, even especially with the people that are representing the various states and regions now. What are they supposed to be doing that they are not doing, and who is stopping them?
Well, because as at the moment, they are not being treated as equal partners in the Nigerian projects. It's as if we have given them appointments from within the context of our power. You cannot build in Nigeria that works like that. Earlier on, I was talking about a senior military officer from the North who was talking to me. He said, I was saying that, look.
As in, is like someone arming my heart, because it's very painful that I lost my dad at this age because of the load is much on me. It's very much on me.
With the multiple killings, the big question among residents of Ogun State was, who was Spartan and why was he killing? For some, he was no more than a cultist, while others described him as a drug addict who had been affected by the influence of the drugs, but the police say his style of operation suggested otherwise.
You see how he cleared a large portion and tactically leaving behind a mast, dug some trenches around him to evade or to dodge arrest, and had all offensive weapons with him, bottles, cutlasses.
He's not a madman. He's not a madman. He's not a madman.
A quick check on his Facebook page suggests that he may have belonged to a secret cult and may have suffered from some form of psychological disorder. For more than a year, he filled his wall with writings concerning death and violence. Aside from that, He expressed his mind on the walls of different uncompleted buildings he used as hideouts before he finally relocated to the forest. The police team, which include the commander of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad in Ogun State, Tijani Mohammed, the divisional police officer at Ogiri, and other senior officers of the command, headed by the Commissioner of Police, combed the forest for days without success until their efforts paid off through the use of technology.
We were able to have a pinpoint location of where he was hiding in the bush, and we engaged him. He broke bottles again, drew the cutlasses. The cutlass is in the vehicle there in case you want to see it, the one he had been using to hack people to death. Then, of course, we replied. We maimed him on the leg. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a fatal injury. So that's how we were able to arrest him.
Items found at his den in the forest include a gas cylinder, plantain, cooking pot, jerry cans, SIM packs, among others. TVC News paid a visit to his family house at Ogiri, but nobody was available to comment and residents were not willing to talk on camera. Those who spoke off camera say his father had died and his mother fled due to his evil enterprise. Unfortunately, none of them was able to confirm if he was suffering from any form of psychological problems, but they confirmed that he was a cultist and used illegal drugs.
Wow. Luck has run out of a 4-member gang of kidnappers in Rivers State. The gang, specializing in kidnapping for ransom, met their Waterloo after one of their victims died from injuries sustained from torture while in captivity. Now, despite the payment of 1.2 million naira ransom. Now, the death of 65-year-old Isokrari Braid was the propelling force for the police to move in on the kidnappers.
The events of the 8th of August 2020 are still fresh in the memory of Beatrice Braid. It was the day kidnappers attacked her family house in Diobo, Port Harcourt, and gunned down her husband's younger brother, David Braid. Afterwards, they escaped, taking her husband, Sokari Braid, captive, even though she was the original target. The kidnappers later demanded a 20 million naira ransom, but were paid 1.2 million naira. 65-year-old Sokari Braid was released but died 24 hours later due to injuries allegedly inflicted on him by the gang.
They keep him for their custody 11 days. I begged them with 500,000. From there, I begged them 1.2. They collect the money on Tuesday. Then bring out my husband on Wednesday. Under Andoni Bridge, that between them and Ogoni. Under the bridge, and then go keep my husband.
Two out of the 4 suspects are relatives of the family.
Like and carry one man go. Obio's father. I got to say, but that man will carry. You know, say my in-law be that. Instead, I'm making the call me. So okay, we are not carry the man go. Instead, then they for Ogoni.
We recovered the man, took him to the hospital. He made a few speeches before he finally gave up the ghost in the hospital. But the clue he gave to us was what led to the arrest of the man who went to deliver the ransom. Unknowing to him, that man has been working with him.
In a related development, the Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Zone 16, Austin Agbolahon, is pleased with the successes recorded by the police in Rivers State. During his visit to the state command's headquarters, he assured that the challenges of manpower would soon be addressed.
As soon as men are recruited and trained, every state of the command, as it has been done in the last 2 recruitments, the people that are produced from here for the training are also sent back. I'm sure that will cushion your challenge of manpower.
AIG Agbolahon oversees one of the newest police zones, comprising Rivers and Bayelsa police commands.
Border communities in the northern part of Nigeria and neighboring Niger Republic are attracting international attention. Militants are overrunning communities, killing and maiming with the use of sophisticated arms. This development has forced the Prime Minister of Niger Republic to meet with the governor of Zamfara with a view to finding lasting solution to the problem.
Activities of armed bandits in border communities of Niger Republic and some states of Nigeria's northwest is attracting international attention. Niger Republic has had its share of insecurity in recent times. It prompts the Nigerian Prime Minister, Brigadier Rafini, to pay a visit to Zamfara State, where he meets with Governor Bello Matawalle. He is worried at the influx of weapons from Libya into both Nigeria and Niger due to porous borders. Brigadier Rafini, who spoke through an interpreter, says this has contributed to attacks on border communities and other parts of the northwest region.
The security issue concerns all the ECOWAS space, working on this to see how to solve this problem. It's very difficult. The border of the Niger and Nigeria, they are very long. It's a very large border.
The exchange of gold for small arms by bandits who double as illegal miners is the subject for discourse. The Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawalle reaffirms the determination of his administration to rid the state of any form of crime. He says he is willing to collaborate with Nigerian government to beef up security at border entry communities. Matawalle donated 5 Hilux vehicles to strengthen the joint border patrol aimed at curtailing the importation of arms from other countries.
We need to share intelligence between the Niger Republic security and Nigerian security. And as a state governor, I'm going to support the security of Niger. In fact, I pledged 5 vehicles for them so that they can be able to be monitoring the border. The state government and the Niger Republic are going to have a partnership so that we can see how to diversify, particularly in mining sector.
The two leaders commit to safeguarding border entries while calling on citizens to assist security operatives with information to bring a lasting solution to the incessant attacks on communities. The visit by the Nigerian Prime Minister, apart from security matters, is to further boost bilateral relations with the Zamfara State government to boost mining and other commercial activities.
The negative impact of illicit arms trafficking in Nigeria can be said to be the root of insecurity in the country, accounting for increasing violence and mass killings. Security experts are saying border security management is strategic at this time, as Nigeria's porous borders are not only paving way for free flow of arms in and out of the country, but has made it the epicenter of internationalized organized crimes on the continent. That will be when we come back. The proliferation of illicit and small arms is perhaps the biggest challenge facing the West African continent at the moment. This is not unconnected to the crisis in Libya and Mali that are seeing arms smuggled into other parts of the continent, including Nigeria. Research shows that Nigeria currently accounts for 70% of illegal weapons in West Africa. Just recently, Zamfara State Governor attributed the proliferation of arms in the state to the fact that foreigners pay for gold with arms. The Inspector General of Police has ordered a mop-up of illicit arms across the country, as well as prosecute those in possession of them. I had a chat with security expert Dixon Osajie. He says Nigeria's porous borders is the nation's Achilles heel in the fight against insecurity and arms proliferation.
When we talk about border security, it's solely the responsibility of Nigerian immigration. But when we experience internal or external aggression or external threats, then that's where the Nigerian military comes to play, because the sole objective of the Nigerian military is the protection of the territorial integrity of our great nation. So when we talk about border security, is putting an application in place to prevent unwanted and proliferation of arms into our great nation, Nigeria. So for me, the difference here is that when you talk about border security and security of our national borders, they mean the same thing. But the border security on its own is putting an application in place. But the fact that our border is closed does not mean our border is secured. You know, border closure does not classify the safe nation. When the border was open, we have a lot of illegal routes, you know, where irregular migrants usually, you know, pass through with the arms and ammunition. Because we have two types of people plying our borders, the regular citizens or irregular visitors. So what we need to do is to have an holistic border security. Because we will look at America, for example. America is 10 times the size of Nigeria. America is about 9.8 million square kilometers, while Nigeria is about 923,000 square kilometers. And America has a very good and resounding border security. So what has happened all these years because of the, let me say, capable of an absent guardian in respect of our border security. So what I would advise the Nigerian government to do is to, you know, multiply the immigration service. As of now, immigration are having about 35,000 men governing a nation of this magnitude. That is wrong. So I will advise the federal government to, like, you know, improve this, the strength of the Nigerian immigration, then get the Nigerian immigration a lot of drones. Then we should look into border security intensively. Because you can't just allow all this to happen, because if we don't protect our borders, Nigeria will be consumed by these criminal elements, taking the vulnerability of our security strategies and acting on that vulnerability. So none of them will want to come through the legal route. They will definitely want to pass through the illegal route. Thereby, we classify them as irregular migrants. So our government must project security apparatus in place. We have a lot of CCTV, have a lot of drones that is going to govern the space. Because what Americans do is this: if you're approaching any American border, they will sense it from their command and control center. So we should build a command and control center that will take care of our national borders, so that when any threat is being perceived, we will be able to get to that threat and respond immediately. What we need to do now, presently, because as it is, our borders are not protected. What the government needs to do is to get more helicopters that are going to, you know, carry out a kind of border patrol. We need intensive border patrol now. So when we have a lot of helicopters from all the zones we've measured, these helicopters will carry out what we call psychological deterrence measures. Because when you perceive that you are being watched, it's going to kind of reduce the state of insecurity. So what we need to do is to have a lot of border patrol, a lot of drones, a lot of helicopters that will be patrolling our borderline areas, especially those borderline areas that has been marked as a hotspot. Before you carry out this patrol, you need to carry out a risk assessment of those borders. When you carry out a risk assessment of those borders, then you ascertain where the threat is coming from. Then when you ascertain where the threat is coming from, we will now project our security measures in those areas, because we cannot definitely put on a border patrol or helicopter or drone mechanism all over our borders. You need to carry out a risk assessment. So from that risk assessment, you'll be able to ascertain where the threat is coming from, then project more security application in that route, so that we'll be able to curtail this crime in progress. Because there are two ways to curtail crime. You curtail crime in progress, you stop crime, or you go after crime. So what we need to do is to curtail crime in progress and prevent these criminal elements in taking opportunity of our borders. Counterintelligence, and just what we call intelligence gathering and counterintelligence. Counterintelligence is a process whereby your enemy is hitting hard on you not to get intelligence from them. You know, for example, I want to get intelligence about the Boko Haram operations in the northeast, and the Boko Haram group or army themselves have an effective counterintelligence mechanism. That is to say that I cannot hit on them or get information from them. That is, they have a good protection. They protected their own information. So now, when we talk about intelligence gathering, we have the human intelligence gathering. Open source image is intelligence gathering. Like, for example, if terrorists want to get information from the media, they will tune into TVC, channel 418, and they will listen to what's happening and understand what the government are planning to do. That is what we call open source intelligence. Then we'll talk more about human source intelligence. It's hearing from you and I. You know, maybe you have a friend or a girlfriend in the enemy's camp, and the girl begins to tell you what their people are trying to plan. That is what we call human intelligence. Then the military needs to also look at signal intelligence. That's what we call SIGINT. signal intelligence is hitting into the technological network of these insurgents, because there's a way they operate in recruiting their men. We call it dark network. Do you think they just come to the town and start enrolling people? They have a network they used to employ, and they have their own communication channel. So the military needs to hit into that communication channel so that they can be able to break in and get more intelligence to carry out a successful attack against these guys. If you don't have a strong intelligence network, telling you the truth, you are going to fight till eternity. Intelligence is one of the bedrock to the success of any given war.
Now let's bring you some other crime news.
Dar es Salaam is a terrorist group that has been terrorized in the north-central region and other states in the north for more than 8 years. Activities of the group became prominent in the last 7 months in Nasarawa State and other neighboring states in the north-central. The group has been involved in killings, kidnapping for ransom, adoption for slavery and sex wives, cattle rustling along the Okene-Lokoja and Abaji-Toto Road. The acts have a semblance with activities of the notorious Boko Haram terrorists that has been terrorizing the country for more than a decade. It is as a result of this that the Nigerian Army Force Special Forces Command, in a joint operation with White Stroke, embarked on an operation codenamed Operation Nutcracker to clear Ugia Forest, Panda Forest, Utu Forest, and Contagious Hills in Nasarawa State. The operation yielded fruit as captives and family members of terrorists were captured alongside arms and ammunition of the group. They are now being handed over to their various state governments to be rehabilitated and reintegrated into the society.
I therefore present to you this captured 778 women of the terrorists that emanated from 17 states of the nation who have decided to terrorize this nation, as you can see. I am to add that these women and children are the real terrorists, as they are the people that indoctrinate newly kidnapped women and children, and they are the bankers of the spoils of kidnapping and armed robbery acts of their husbands.
The Nasarawa State government, Kogi, and Niger were at hand to receive the captives for rehabilitation and reintegration into the society.
I want to request that those of them on the run should please come out, surrender their arms, and surrender themselves to the armed forces, because we need peace in this country.
We are here by special grace of God, without wasting of any time, to taking over all those that were numbering and also assigned to our state. We have already made an arrangement that on their arrival we are going to profiling them, ask them questions, where are they coming from, their various local government, and also how to make sure we send them back to their various local government.
So far, only Niger, Kogi, and Nasarawa states have come to receive these captives back to their states of origin. The Department of State Security Services in the state is expected to facilitate the return of the remaining captives back to their states of origin.
Rape is one of the fastest rising violent crimes in Nigeria. Here are some tips to prevent rape. Avoid unsafe situations and strangers. If you are being followed, go to the nearest police station or any place with several people. Avoid walking alone. Walk with someone in areas where other people are near. Stay away from dark alleys, bushes, and entryways. Flee if you are in a potentially dangerous situation. Yell or scream to attract attention. You can carry a whistle that will make a loud noise. Engage in passive resistance by talking your way out of the situation, or active resistance by reacting to startle your attacker. Don't allow a stranger inside your home use the telephone. Leave the outside lights on at night and in more than one room.
And that's our program today. Thanks for watching. You can send in eyewitness pictures and videos to our email address and social media handles. It's coming up on your screen now. I'm Ivy Kano. I'll be back same time next week. Till then.
Tonight has been eventful. Lives have been reportedly lost, with several people sustaining serious injuries as a result of the pandemonium that broke out hours ago at the Lekki Toll Gate area of Lagos.
Let them shoot, let them shoot. No problem. No problem. Everyone sit down, sit down, sit down. Let them shoot, let them shoot. No problem. No problem. Everyone sit down, sit down, sit down. Let's go, let's go.
There are now fears that there's an unconfirmed number of fatalities. Before this all started, we have reports that the CCTV cameras and all the lights at the scene were put off, and then the security operatives fired shots, resulting in people scampering to safety.
More rush these people. No, in the escape, now in the escape. Make them not do anything, in the escape.
I was there because the person that was beside me, the bullet meets the person beside me. I swear, the person that was beside me.
I remember you now, you know me now.
The person was beside me, bullet meet, I instantly fall down. I got to save myself. I run. Four people. I say I'm going like this. 4 people.
I was aware of that when they shoot for leg. I was aware of that. Yeah, put that guy on the bike. I was aware of it.
Instantly, the people went bullet me to see instantly where first died. 7 of them instantly where first died. Instantly. One bullet meter for leg.
And now we're hearing that 2 new generation banks along Admiralty Way in Lekki 1 have been set ablaze. But the video that you see right now is from a popular Nigerian disc jockey who was broadcasting live on Instagram from the scene of the protest at the Lekki Toll Plaza. From the chaotic scene are disturbing pictures that you can see there of some persons shot and others injured. This is coming from the incident shortly after armed operatives fired shots.
You are the key protesters. They have shot so many people. See, soldiers just killed someone now. Soldiers just killed someone now. Soldiers just killed someone now. They just killed someone now. They just shot someone now. Let's see. Soldiers just came. No one was fighting. Soldiers came and started killing. See, they killed so many already. See. They shot his leg. They shot so many people. Yeah, see.
Scenes there from the Lekki Toll Plaza. Now, one of the residents who witnessed the shooting, Professor Patu Tomi, speaks to us on what he observed and the conduct of the protesters soon after a curfew was imposed by the Lagos state government. Let's listen to him.
I live not very far from the Lekki Toll Plaza, and I was on the deck of the house, and I was actually speaking to somebody in the United States. I had just finished speaking with a Nigerian diplomat friend here in Lagos, analyzing the strategy and wondering if it was not really a worrisome strategy to take an ultimatum of we're going to have a curfew, 24-hour curfew, bearing in mind that the students, the young people are already accusing the authorities of being the ones sending the hoodlums, so they can trigger a reason for attacking them. And that if the young people choose to fail to obey, that, you know, the persons who have made such a choice will be left with a difficult, so that in decision making as a manager, I would be wary of taking that kind of position. But the law and other people often react like that. I just finished discussing that with this Nigerian diplomat, and I was talking to somebody in the US when I heard sirens. And I was wondering, sirens just kept going, and suddenly I heard gunfire. And I said, oh my God, they're shooting at these kids, they're shooting at these kids. And I was talking to somebody in the US as this was going on. And I could then hear them, kneel down, they're shooting at us, kneel down, they're shooting at us.
Recall that of course, that the curfew started around 4 p.m. As it is now, there's going to be so much chaos. And the question people are asking is, where do we go from here?
Yeah, I think that authorities dealing with this matter need to be very careful. The youth of Nigeria have become a global tribe. They are all over the planet, and they can run an asymmetrical war against public authority in Nigeria if we don't manage this carefully. And they can operate from a global disposition. And I don't think they want to do that. So everybody making choices should be very, very circumspect of rash decision making. And I hope that God gives everybody the wisdom to behave right.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari today held a closed-door meeting with the Minister of Defense, retired Major General Bashir Magashi, and the Chief of Defense Staff, General Gabriel Olunishakin, at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. Although details of the meeting are not clear, it may not be unconnected with the security situation in the country arising from the NSAS protests in different parts of the country. Take a look at some of the events that transpired a bit earlier. Following the attack on police facilities and correctional centers in parts of the country by hoodlums, the Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Adamu, ordered an immediate nationwide deployment of anti-riot police units, that's the police mobile force, to protect lives and property of all Nigerians and to secure critical national infrastructure across the country. A statement on their microblogging platform, Twitter, explains that commissioners of police in the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT are to identify and isolate lawbreakers from peaceful protesters and immediately arrest and diligently prosecute such perpetrators of violence in their respective commands. The police went on to say the 12 suspects have been arrested in connection with the attacks and arson on police stations in Bini, Edo State. 5 AK-47 rifles earlier stolen from vandalized police stations have also been recovered. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, is presenting an action plan for extensive reforms of the Nigerian police. In an address to federal lawmakers during today's plenary, Mr. Gbajabiamila vowed not to sign the 2021 budget unless there was adequate provision to compensate victims of police brutality as well as improve police welfare. The Senate, on the other hand, is demanding that President Muhammadu Buhari urgently address Nigerians on the End SARS protest, which has spread across parts of the country.
There appears to be no stopping these protesters across the country, intent on making certain that government heeds their demands of reforming the Nigerian police. Nothing has so far placated them, neither the disbandment of the notorious Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, nor the setting up of a new police unit, the Special Weapons and Tactics Team, SWAT, to replace SARS. And the Speaker of the House of Representatives seems to be mindful of this.
The House of Representatives has committed to a program of reforms. We resolved to collaborate with the Nigerian Bar Association and the National Human Rights Commission in this effort and to ensure that draft legislation is ready for consideration within 30 days. None of these actions have sufficed to convince the ever-growing numbers of protesters to withdraw from the continued agitation. From Lagos to Akuzu, from Port Harcourt to Kano, Abuja, and Enugu. The protests have continued relentlessly with good cause. Whatever else may be driving this movement, our people expect more than commitments.
The Speaker itemizes some of the actions he says the House of Representatives will be taking to address the problem of police brutality.
The House will receive and immediately begin to consider legislation that seeks to establish a system of independent, responsive accountability that, 1, holds erring members of the police force to account for their conduct in the performance of their duties. 2, imposes civil and criminal liability for violations of the law and the police regulations. I will not sign off on a 2021 budget that does not include adequate provisions to compensate those who have suffered violence and brutality at the hands of the police in Nigeria in the last decade.
In the Senate, lawmakers are asking President Muhammadu Buhari to, as a matter of urgency, address Nigerians and the End SARS protests.
I think that part of what is going to resolve this issue with immediacy is for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to look at the issues, address the nation on them. And I think that people will listen, knowing that he has now come out to directly deal with the issue.
The Senate is also appealing to the protesters to embrace dialogue. In the meantime, they are asking the police to protect the protesters to prevent the demonstrations from being hijacked by unscrupulous people.
Huh? In part 2, after the break, we'll take a look at some of people who are wounded at the Lekki Toll Plaza here in Lagos. And the Lagos State government imposes 24-hour curfew to curb the breakdown of law and order as thugs burn down police stations in the state. All coming up in a moment. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Unconfirmed number of people feared dead following gunshots by operatives at the scene of the End SARS protest at the Lekki Toll Plaza in Lagos. Security lights and CCTV cameras disconnected before shots fired. President Muhammadu Buhari engages Minister of Defense and Chief of Defense Staff in an emergency meeting at the State House in Abuja over security situation in the country. House of Representatives rolls out action plan to address demands by NSAS protesters. Speaker Bajabia Miller also insists on having the plans reflect on Budget 2021 before passage. And 5 state governors impose curfew to stem further security breaches and threats. It's been an eventful day indeed. Let's just give you an idea of what we know now. Obviously, lives have been reportedly lost, as we've reported earlier on, and we do have some visuals of wounded persons as well at the toll.
You'll be fine, you'll be fine.
Now, that was as a result of the pandemonium that broke out at the Lekki toll gate when shots were fired. For now, there are fears that there are an unconfirmed number of fatalities, casualties as well. As we reported before all that started out, CCTV cameras and the lights at the scene were put off as well. Of course, our eye is still on that area. Now, the presidential panel on alleged human rights violations by operatives of the now disbanded Special Anti-Robbery Squad has recommended the prosecution of 33 officers. The panel, chaired by the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission, Tony Ojukwu, released its report today, and some of its recommendations include a monetary compensation of 265.77 million naira to victims of human rights violations and the prosecution of 33 SARS officers. The panel also recommended a public apology for over 32 cases of rights violations to be published in newspapers and other means. The once peaceful village on the outskirts of Apo has been turned into a war zone as suspected hoodlums who allegedly chased NSAS protesters into the village went on rampage, burning cars and destroying houses. According to the police in the Federal Capital Territory, 2 persons lost their lives during the incident. Although calm was restored to the community, the attacks were renewed by the hoodlums, which led to reprisals by residents of the area.
This is what is left of Pigbasama community in Apo district in the nation's capital. It's reminiscent of a war zone as traders count their losses and residents try to salvage what is left of their belongings.
NSAS people were doing their demonstration outside this area at Kabisa Junction. Unfortunately, those Muslim people within that ISIS, they mobilized and started burning these cars that belong to people within that region. So Mbuka people, those people that are selling past this area, then went down to douse down the tension. Unfortunately, going down to that area, they saw the mobile people, army people, using tear gas to spray people away.
Around 5:30, they want one person here. So after that, we climbed up that hill. We stayed here. We see them enter inside the village with cutlass and the wood. So we say, here is not supposed to stay here. The best thing, let us go another village. The end, all of us will sleep in bush. In the night, they come out anything. And what surprised me, only Hausa people, their shop, they scatter.
In another part of the nation's capital, specifically Gosa village, NSAS protesters take over the Umar Musa Yaradua way, cutting off traffic to the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. The youth march towards the action as they barricade the only bridge linking the airport to the expressway, leaving commuters stranded.
Police don't come beat us here because we say NSAS. We are not blocking Federal Road. We are protesting our own. We are not blocking the road.
See tear gas.
They are using it to pursue us since. Yes. We are hungry. We have no money to pay the school because we are fighting for our rights. No, women are suffering. Hey, government, we are suffering.
Amid the protests, some FCT indigents support the End SARS protesters.
We as FCT Indigenous Youth Liberation Movement have no hand in the said protest and press briefing admonishing the End SARS protesters to steer clear of the FCT roads. As youths, we strongly believe in the expression of rights of Nigerians as enshrined in the constitution of our country and cannot stop or attempt to prevent any residents of the FCT from exercising such rights.
While the protesters are busy on the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Expressway, a reprisal attack takes place at Kabusa Junction, leaving the fruit market in the area razed. Following the order of the Inspector General of Police, armed policemen assisted by soldiers patrol the village as residents walk long distances due to the absence of tricycle riders. With the presence of the military and armed mobile policemen, normalcy appears to have been restored to Apo, which houses the biggest mechanic village in the Federal Capital Territory.
We can now bring you some more pictures of what transpired today, where several people sustained serious injuries as a result of the pandemonium that broke out hours ago at the Lekki toll gate area of Lagos, where gunshots were fired at protesters.
You'll be fine, you'll be fine. His leg, watch his leg.
Let me, I'm coming. I'm coming. I told all those guys. Wow. This is the one that I move it like this. Okay, to my legs. Let me come and
Hospital. What happened to you? They shoot us. Now where did this thing happen for now? Not to come from on top of. They knock out for something. Okay.
Well, there are now fears that there's an unconfirmed number of fatalities. Remember that before all this started, we had reports that the CCTV cameras and the lights at the toll gate were turned off and shots were then fired, resulting in them scampering for safety. Several lives were also lost at that shooting. Our eye is still on it, and when we know more, you will also. Now, the message of End SARS seems to be a guise some hoodlums took to the streets across the country, causing mayhem from Orile here in Lagos to Jos in Plateau State. And the stories are the same. Here's a report of how the hoodlums took advantage of the End SARS protest to achieve a separate mission, unleashing violence and burning down police stations, as was the case in Igomu.
This billowing thick dark smoke coming from the Orile Igomu police station in Lagos gives a vivid picture of an outcome of terror unleashed by hoodlums who took advantage of the End SARS protests. In their hundreds, they attacked the police station, setting it ablaze. Anyone found around this vicinity who perhaps does not buy into their vision was also visited with anger. It was a mob action and definitely not the mission of the End SARS protesters. In Jos Plateau State, hoodlums also took over the streets, attacking innocent citizens who had left their home early, not knowing what was coming their way. They scamper for safety. Some journalists were not spared in the melee. In Edo State, a major highway was blocked.
The police are on their way. The police are on their way.
Shop owners and civil servants sit at home. Oyo State witnessed some tension as hoodlums also seized the opportunity to foment trouble. The NSAS protest may have started with a lot of genuine demands which government in turn says they are looking into, but the situation in Orile, Ibutemeta, Jos and Benin City run completely different from the NSAS mission. And perhaps this may just be the time for the protesters to review tactics so that their demands are not wrongly interpreted.
Now our correspondent Olu Phillips is live in the Lekki area of Lagos. Let's go to him now. Olu, what fresh information can you tell us now?
IJ, what started some days ago as a peaceful protest, peaceful young people marching through the streets and making their voices heard, has turned into a Black Tuesday here at the Lekki toll plaza, which is just 100 meters away from me. Now, this place used to be well lit by the street lights. Remember that we spoke live here from this spot at 5 p.m. telling the whole world that these people are still peaceful, sitting on the floor and telling the whole world that they want their government to listen to them. And after that time, just few hours after that time, when it came into darkness, the street lights went off and some folks approached in uniform and opened fire. I'm gonna speak to one or two persons who were very close to some of the firing range and what they have to say. My brother, please can you come? Tell us what exactly happened. Speak up.
So, we were protesting peacefully. After comedian AY approached us, he addressed us. There was nothing. We were still protesting peacefully without any violence at all. Immediately, the street lights, they went off. People started shooting at us. We were able to recognize them. They were putting on uniform. These were the military men, the soldiers. We were lying down, waving our flag, telling them they are protesting peacefully. But yet they refused. They were shooting directly at us. It wasn't to drive us away. It was to kill us.
Okay, I'm gonna let him stop there. I'm gonna bring someone else. IJ, this is live update, and all our equipments are away. We had to improvise these systems. You can see I have some. You can't see, but I have a lot of folks, friends here in front of me. Those who are protesting, and they're pointing their torchlights, phone lights on me to be able to illuminate this place. Look at this man, for instance. He's conveyed a few people to the hospital and he's got blood stains all over him. I'm going to ask him to step out again. I'm bringing someone else again. Look at this man. This is part of the damages that are happening here at the Lekki toll. Now, IJ, if you think that is not good enough, IJ, look at this. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. That's bullets. This is it. Bullets. These are evidences that people were shot. Earlier, we saw some pictures that we sent in of someone who was shot on the thigh. 2 people have been taken to a hospital that we are aware of, but there are more than 9 persons are receiving treatment in various hospitals across this place. This is what is happening here at Lekki toll. I have just a few minutes or few seconds to leave this place because we are now under a guarded area by some of these guys, and they assured me that I couldn't do this for more than 3 to 4 minutes. So IJ, the world, Channels TV, we are speaking live from the Lekki toll plaza. Allow us to leave now for safety because the military men are still around here. It's back to you, IJ.
Thank you, Olu. Whatever you do out there, do stay safe and keep us updated as much as you can while staying safe while you do that. Thanks a lot for that. Well, when the news at 10 returns, Securities and Exchange Commission sets January the 1st, 2021 as deadline for implementation and compliance of the corporate governance guidelines and template. And that will be on business. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. Apart from Lagos State, other states that have declared 24-hour curfews today include Ekiti, Osun, Ondo, Imo, and Plateau states. While the curfew applies to all parts of the other states, that of Plateau applies only to just north and just south local government areas. The governors of the states announced the declarations today, citing disturbances from NSAS protests as the reason for the action. Now, more state governments are implementing the recommendation of the National Economic Council by setting up a judicial panel of inquiry to investigate the cases of human rights abuses by operatives of the disbanded Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS. This time, the governors of Anambra, Ebonyi, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, Rivers, as well as Kwara states have keyed into the exercise. We move on now, and in a bid to identify, honor, and reward outstanding teachers in Nigeria, the Nigeria Breweries PLC has held its 6th edition of the Maltina Teacher of the Year. The organizers say this year's edition witnessed an even stronger engagement with all key education stakeholders. The Maltina Teacher of the Year was introduced in 2015 to identify quality teachers.
According to a popular saying, the reward of the teacher is in heaven. But for Maltina, there's a reward on earth too.
History drawn in the palms of our heroes past, men and women of valor.
Which is why every year the Nigerian Breweries brings together staff, top government officials and stakeholders in the education sector to celebrate quality teachers and education.
For you teachers today,
the Maltina Teacher of the Year, in its 6th edition, seeks to identify, honor and reward outstanding teachers in Nigeria.
Today we are here to recognize, celebrate and motivate some amazing men and women whose stories stand out and serve remind that no society can exist without the solid foundation provided by teachers.
Despite the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, the panel of judges are able to conduct the screening process virtually.
The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on all aspects of our existence, including education. But we have witnessed the resilient spirit of our teachers who have had to find new ways to teach virtually, despite the technological challenge and limits of our environment.
As usual, champions from each state are awarded prizes of 500,000 naira each. Then it's time to announce the Maltina Teacher of the Year.
And the winner is Oluwabumi Anina.
Oluwabumi Anani, an English teacher in Concordial College, Yola in Adamawa State, takes home 1 million naira cash for the next 5 years, plus a capacity development training abroad. Her school also receives a fully equipped computer laboratory or a 6th classroom block worth 20 million naira.
Thank you for putting a smile on my face, not just on my face, but on the faces of every teacher who has had the privilege to be part of this dream.
The Maltina Teacher of the Year was introduced in 2015 to recognize and celebrate exceptional teachers in Nigeria.
Although the coronavirus pandemic may have challenged various systems, including the health sector, it's also raised more consciousness on healthy diets and lifestyle.
Of the Chivita World Juice Day also features a panel session where talks revolve around
very high levels of magnesium, calcium. In fact, I remember reading somewhere that orange juice has more calcium than milk, and you would tend to imagine that milk is a rich source of calcium. So there's a whole wealth of information and great stuff sitting inside the glass.
The company says there is more in the works to ensure that the education of consumers on the benefits of natural fruit juice consumption is sustained.
Per capita consumption of juice in this country is so low. It's actually...
Though the World Fruit Juice Day is celebrated on October the 17th every year,
they come out in their large numbers in Lekki area of Lagos, most of them young people who say they are tired of police intimidation and harassment, and they are joining Lagos-Ibadan Highway where the NSAS protesters cordoned off the road. But the Ogun State governor is giving assurances that the government will not allow things to degenerate into anarchy.
We as government that's charged in securing the lives of
property of every citizen of the state will not sit back and watch legitimate protests degenerate into anarchy.
In Benue State, the youth decide to visit the government house, where they request protection to carry on their procession.
We as leaders in this country, we have truly failed the Nigerians and the people of this country. And we must devise better ways of making sure that we correct their anomalies.
It's not different in Enugu State, where most of the youth also demand for an end to police brutality. At the police command, they get the attention of the Commissioner of Police.
By the day that the unit was disbanded, they had 11 suspects. Out of the 11 suspects, one was on court order, while 10 were being investigated.
In Taraba, the protesters demand for good governance, end SARS, as well as an end to the insecurity in the state. Like in most states, young people of Akwa Ibom occupy Ibom Plaza, preventing vehicular movement. In Port Harcourt, it was a mixed bag of some youth calling for dialogue with the federal government after the government agreed to the now popular 5 for 5 demand, while another group of NSAS protesters are insisting on seeing clear action from authorities before they can call off the protest nationwide.
We sincerely appreciate you and assure you that you will see a different police, different policing, fighting crime in the best professional way, in international approved ways.
The message from the youth is the same. They want an end to bad governance, police harassment and brutality, and an end to corruption. The government on its part says it's willing to address the situation, but that, of course, it needs time to do that.
From there, let's take a look at some business news for the day. And here's Anne Wilder.
Thanks a lot, Ijoma. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Securities and Exchange Commission has set the 1st of January 2021 as deadline for the implementation of corporate governance guidelines and template. In a statement released today, the director also directed public companies to comply with these requirements of the revised Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018, which has now become a mandatory reporting template. The capital market regulator also mentions that some provisions of the document can be found on its website, and that's www.sec.gov.ng. The Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance, which was issued by the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria back in 2018, replaces all existing sectorial codes of corporate governance in the country. The Industrial Training Fund has identified industrial training and vocational skills as prerequisite for the addressing job mismatch in Nigeria. Job mismatch is generally defined as a worker in a job that does not correspond with his or her level of qualification. At a meeting in Abuja, the nation's capital, the Director General of the ITF, Mr. Joseph Ari, explains that the current spate of unemployment in the country faces existing vacancies is indicative of a gap in the education system. Let's talk about the stock market now. Despite the nationwide protests against human rights violations by police, which enters its 14th day, the stock market has eked out some gains at the close of business. Chimeze Obiwago has the details for us.
Thank you and welcome to the Stock Market Report. You might describe the market as resilient as the bull maintains its stand. But the truth is that the unrest in the country is beginning to weigh on investor sentiment. The market was on the green in early session, but after the 24-hour curfew was announced by the Lagos state government, the index tilted to the red zone. But just a minute to the close of trading, the prices of Nigerian breweries and flour mill gained, and that helped the market to soft land back in the green. Lagos, we know, is the commercial capital of Nigeria, and for it to be under curfew could imply the entire Nigeria is under curfew, and so investors would not want to bet their money for it. Look at today's activity, quite minimal compared to what we've seen in the past sessions. Just about 297 million shares were traded in 4,736 deals valued at close to 3 billion naira. And when you look at the sectoral chart, all the sectors were in the red except the consumer goods sector. For now, there is nothing to cheer about. We can only hope the government matches their words with actions to curtail the unrest. Until then, optimism can only be a watchword. And that was the stock market report. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago.
And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Joma.
Thanks a lot, Anne. The US has filed charges against internet search giant Google, accusing it of violating competition law to preserve its monopoly over internet searches and online advertising. It's the biggest lawsuit brought by US regulators against a major tech company in years and follows more than a year of investigation, and as Google and other big tech firms face scrutiny of their practices at home and abroad. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The UK is pushing ahead to be the first nation to carry out human challenge studies where up to 90 healthy exposed people will be deliberately exposed to coronavirus. The trials, which could begin in January, aim to speed up the race to get a COVID-19 vaccine. The government has announced it will put £33.6 million towards the groundbreaking work. Experts have insisted that safety will be a #1 priority. The plans will need ethical approval and sign-off from regulators before they can go ahead. Meanwhile, anti-coronavirus restrictions in the UK's continental neighbours have been ramped up. The Italian region of Lombardy has asked the national government to impose a regional curfew from Thursday amid predictions of a steep rise in the use of intensive care beds. France has reported more than 2,000 people in intensive care for the first time since May. More than half the intensive care beds in the Paris region are in use. US President Donald Trump and his Democrat rival Joe Biden will have their microphones muted for part of their final pre-election debate on Thursday.
And you'll get to see.
It comes after a heated first debate marked by ill-tempered exchanges and frequent interruptions on both sides, but predominantly by the president. Both Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden will be given 2 minutes to make their remarks without interruption from the other candidate. Microphones will then be unmuted for questions. Meanwhile, President Trump has said Sudan will come off a list of state sponsors of terror if it pays compensation of $335 million. Sudanese Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok has responded by saying the funds have been transferred, but there has been no immediate US confirmation. Sudan has been listed since 1993, when al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden lived there as a guest of the government. The compensation relates to al-Qaeda's 1998 bombing of US embassies in Africa. Guinea's opposition leader, Cellou Dalein Diallo, has declared himself the winner of Sunday's presidential election, despite the fact that official results have not yet been announced. The Electoral Commission has said vote counting is still ongoing and that it is the only body mandated to announce the winner. But earlier, Mr. Diallo told journalists and his supporters that he won the first round despite anomalies. Mr. Diallo's supporters, who took to the streets to celebrate, have been dispersed by police. In Colombia, thousands of indigenous people have taken to the capital Bogotá's streets to demand an end to violence against social leaders and mass killings. President Ivan Duque dispatched a delegation of ministers and other high-level officials to hold talks with indigenous groups, but the leaders declined to meet them, insisting they would only hold government-to-government talks with the president. The protesters have called for policies to guarantee the well-being of Colombians and indigenous people. Danish submarine builder Peter Madsen, who murdered the Swedish journalist Kim Wall, has been caught after trying to escape from jail. Police have said they arrested a man near the jail, but have so far refused to confirm his identity. Madsen was jailed for life for Kim Wall's murder. She boarded his homemade submarine for an interview in 2017. Her body was discovered on a beach by a passerby 11 days later. Vietnam is bracing for yet another storm as the death toll from floods and landslides triggered by heavy rain since early October has mounted to at least 105, with dozens of people still missing. Vietnam's weather agency is expecting the storm to arrive in its central region on Saturday, bringing more intense rains, risking exacerbating its worst flooding in years. At least 178,000 homes and nearly 7,000 hectares of crops have been impacted so far, and 700,000 farm animals have died. That's according to official data. And finally, freestylers have showcased their outrageous skills in a soccer challenge. Over 201 men and 64 women submitted 30-second videos presenting their skills for the first round of a worldwide competition. After a series of eliminations from which the players' performances can be viewed online, only 16 men and 8 women reached the final round. The final will be held on November the 14th, where a man and a woman will be crowned as the world's best football freestylers.
Well, I think it's really attractive for people to see such a high level when you do tricks with a football, and what makes it more exciting is the battle.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Let's take a look at some sports now. Here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Ijoma. The Nigeria Football Federation, the NFF, has endorsed a proposal by the LMC, that's the League Management